Assalamu alaikum. I'm Shakil Amjad. This is Business Communication. I was just writing something about punctuation. What punctuation has to do with us, we'll just see what it is. In the previous lecture, we did principles of communication. And out of the 7 principles, we did just 1 principle, and that was clarity. So, how you can make your sentences very clear, very concise, using very simple words, using very effective paragraphs, sentences, very short sentences, all these things. One thing I must you about good writing. Number 1, that you must look at very good letters and very bad letters. They'll tell you that how you can improve your communication. And the next thing is, you must write good letters, good memos, good reports yourself. So, if you do these 2 things, I'm sure that you can develop in you this good quality. So, to begin with our today's lecture, I want you to read with me one letter, and let's then talk about this letter. This is an original letter, a real letter. I've certainly modified it. I have picked up all the things that I wanted to share with you. So let's read it. Sir, marketing links with collaboration of ABC making efforts to create an awareness to the public and tell the people how the institute, universities, software houses and computer vendors are working for the betterment of the new generation in the field of advanced computer education for information technology. You have just read first paragraph with me of this letter. What's wrong with this first introductory paragraph? If you look at the introductory paragraph, the first sentence is not actually a sentence. It's just in the shape of a phrase. For example, marketing links with collaboration of ABC making efforts to create an awareness to the public and tell the people. You see that the structure of the sentence before and is just a phrase. There is no subject and no predicate. And then, and tell. It's a real letter. Somebody wanted to convey what they had in their mind to some audience, but they did not care of rereading this letter or revising this letter. It's not yet over. Let's look at something new. Institute, universities. They should have been parallel, either institutes and universities or institute and university. One is singular and the other is plural. They both should have been single, either singular or plural. Similarly, a very interesting thing is another paragraph of this letter. Let me read it for you. Where advertisement in the shape of banners and display tables, stalls, and their valuable opinion guidance. Again, you look at this, it's very interesting. They are confused with homophones. There we should have another there. The spelling of this there are incorrect. We should have here THEIR. In both the places, the word there has wrong spelling, incorrect spelling. It has been typed by somebody very careless. It's not a correct letter. So, look at another thing. In the light of above information, we are hopeful to have your publication in the program which will be great honor for us. Look at this, great honor for us. Great, you know the spelling. Here we need another word, that is G-R-E-A-T, and honor. What are the spelling of honor? Do you agree with the spelling? Certainly not. So, if you look at bad letter, they tell you that how you got to be careful regarding your communication. When you are writing letter, you need to be very careful. Your letter must be correct. Correctness is another quality of business communication and is another principle of business communication. As we discussed that business communication has 7 principles. In the last lecture, we discussed the first principle of business communication, and that was clarity. Today we are going to discuss the second principle, and that is, correctness. What is correctness? Obviously, these are few grammatical mistakes, spelling mistakes, or typographical mistake, whatever you call it. What image are you going to give to your reader? Your reader are certainly going to take you as a very careless communicator, a very careless writer. The blame is, maybe it's not your blame. The blame may be because of your poor composer of the letter, but the responsibility lies on your shoulders. Before signing the letter, you should have been careful. At least you should have read this letter. So, remember that whenever you write any communication, you must revise it. I told you in the last lecture that writing is a process. It started from brainstorming and ends with post-writing stage, in which you revise, you check spelling, you check figures, you double check it, and it's very helpful if you read aloud. I mean, read your letter to yourself, or somebody read the things for you. This technique can be very helpful. When you are listening it, when you are reading it, you are listening it, or when somebody is reading it, you are listening it, and this listening will help you a lot. You'll be able to correct your correspondence, your communication, or letters, memo, whatever you are doing. So, it's a sort of rehearsal that you do before going into public for any oral presentation. So, the same case is here. So, let's see what is the correctness principle. Correctness principle needs to be understood under the influence of this letter, that you must be careful that you shouldn't be doing the same when you are writing letters. We say the correctness principle is more than proper grammar, punctuation, and spelling. I just cited the example in which we just talk about grammar, spelling, and punctuation. Today we are going to discuss about punctuation, a very small segment of, it's a very lengthy topic. I'm not going to going into details, but I would like to share some of the things. They can be very helpful with you. So, correctness principle is to make your communication very correct. There are no grammatical mistakes, no spelling mistakes, no punctuation mistake. But this principle says that it's more than that. So, read next. A message may be perfect grammatically, mechanically, but still lose a customer and fail to achieve a purpose. Though mistakes are never intentional, they spoil our image. Errors in the message fall in the following categories. So, there is something to console you. Mistakes are never intentional. But normally we have seen that we don't forgive others for mistakes, though they are never intentional. Sometimes we don't even forgive ourselves for the mistakes that we have made. So, be very careful. Don't take it as an excuse that mistakes are not intentional. Whether they are intentional or not intentional, nobody is going to forgive you for these. And especially in business, just think of a situation. If you are placing an order for, let's say, for 200 envelope, and instead of writing 200, you have mistakenly added 10, and what it becomes? 2000. And you wanted to write 200. 1800 envelope in excess. How are you going to deal with it? You are going to put yourself in jeopardy, in danger. Even if you are the owner of the organization. So, be very careful. So, let's look at the guideline given. Mistakes in names, figures, facts and words. Mistakes in punctuation and capitalization. Mistakes in the level of language. Again, language. Language needs to be given a lot of care. What is needed or required for make a letter correct, to give correct word, correct figures and correct names. So let's look at it. They say any mistake in names, figures, facts, etc. can make your message unclear. Such mistake can also create problems for you. So you've just seen that how mistakes in anything, in names, in figures, in spelling, can create problem for you. This I just cited the example of letters, envelopes. Instead of 200, you simply wrote 2000. So it can be a big problem for you. So to avoid such situation, always follow the guideline given to you. One is, be very careful to verify your statistical data and double check your totals, and avoid guessing at laws that have an impact on you and your receiver. So this is very important, that when you are writing something, let's suppose that you have to quote something, quote some prices. It's very important that you must verify the prices. Maybe you have in your mind that you know the prices, but marketing is, it's always changing. Maybe prices are changing. Something you think that you knew yesterday may have changed. So be very careful. And when you are making a total of something, be very careful to double check it. And one thing about the laws, especially nowadays as we are communicating across the globe, we must be very careful about the laws that are of a country that we are dealing with. For example, if you are sending some consignment to any European country, be very careful about the laws that are involved in receiving it, and the freight charges, the customs laws, etc., etc. So they can help you a lot. Always keep yourself aware of these things. And whenever you are in doubt, it's better that you must reconfirm the prices or anything that you are in doubt of. So be very careful about these things. So there is something more that you need to do regarding this correctness principle. So Another guideline is that mistake in punctuation and capitalization must be avoided. Mistakes in punctuation. Punctuation, something sometimes we take it for granted and we think that we can do it. So I just wrote this sentence for you in the beginning of this lecture. If you look at this, they have sent us a large order, we must fill it soon. If you look at this sentence has two clauses. They have sent us a large order. This is one clause, we must fill it soon. It is another clause. So we can say that this is a two-claused sentence. This sentence has two clauses. We have a subject, they, and the whole predicate. We have a subject, we, and the whole predicate. So we have two clauses, and these two clauses are not joined by anything. So this type of a sentence is a run-on sentence, because two clauses are grouped together without any punctuation. Remember that whenever you have to bring two clauses together into one sentence, making a compound sentence, be very careful to use punctuation correctly. There are certain ways in which you can deal with such type of clauses and sentences. One way is that you should use any conjunction, connective. So we have 7 conjunctions which can be used to join two clauses, making a compound sentence. For example, I have written this fan, boy. These two words are just to help you remember that which conjunctions are these. For example, F for, A for and for no, B for but, O for or, Y for yet, S for so. These are 7. And these 7 conjunctions can be used to join two independent sentences or two independent clauses. So to correct this sentence, we can bring any of these conjunctions and correct this sentence. You have sent us a large order. They have sent us a large order, so we can bring so or any other. So we must fill it soon. But remember that when you bring any conjunction from this group, you must bring a comma before this. So this will be the right punctuation of the sentence. Another possibility is that instead of using any of these conjunction, you can use semicolon. They have sent us a large order, semicolon, we must fill it soon. So you can bring a semicolon. And the third thing is that you must make these two independent sentences, putting a full stop after order and capitalizing it. We must fill it soon. So this is a very common mistake that I have noticed in communication and letters, and a lot of people make this type of mistake, that when they are dealing with component sentences, they don't care of any punctuation. Either they use a single comma or they don't bring any connective. So be very careful when you are dealing with compound sentences. A compound sentence has two clauses. One clause, as I just showed to you, a clause consists of one subject and one predicate. Predicate means what is told about the subject. So we call it, it includes verb, it includes object, it includes complement, it includes adverbial. So this whole form of predicate. So a compound sentence can have two or more clauses. Each clause consists of one subject and one predicate, right? So let's come back to the same discussion what we were doing regarding correctness principle, that always avoid mistakes that occur in punctuation and capitalization. Regarding capitalization, be aware, you need to capitalize the first letter of every sentence, right? You need to capitalize the names, you need to capitalize the titles, you need to capitalize the first letter in the reported sentences. You must be well versed with these rules. These rules are very common in the books available in market, and also in any book suggested for matric, intermediate or BA level, or even a lot of books of at this level, MBA level. You can have these rules or of punctuation and etc. So be very careful regarding these. Another thing is mistake in the level of language. Discussing this thing, that the language that you are using must be very simple, and you must not use confused word. So let's look at this. We say that there are two types of writings, formal and informal. In formal writing, our style is unconversational. In informal writing, we use words that are short, familiar, and conversational. For example, instead of saying let's commence it, if we say let's start it, I'm sure that everyone will understand what are we saying. Similarly, instead of saying approximately, if we say about, everyone will start it. But there are a few more things regarding formal and informal language. Remember that a formal style is characterized by more complex sentences. I mean, in formal writing, you are going to see more complex sentence, compound and complex. Complex sentence which are longer, and they have one main clause and more than one or subordinate clauses. So you will find complex sentences in formal writing. For example, you are directed. If you look at this sentence, if you find such a letter or such a memo in which this sentence is given, you are directed, what is going to be your opinion regarding the writer of the? Obviously, this is very formal. There is a command of the writer. So avoid this. Another thing is that in formal writing, there are more abstract noun instead of concrete noun. So avoid abstract noun in your informal writing, because abstract nouns are the quality of formal writing. Similarly, we frequently use it pattern in formal writing, just as it is informed, it would not be feasible for, etc., etc. So it pattern is impersonal, and it brings formality in the structure of the communication. So remember that when you are using these things, as I just listed, you must be sure that you are using formal style of writing. And remember that we do have to use sometime. I don't say that we always use informal style in certain reports, etc., or at certain times we have to write in formal style. But normally when we are dealing our transactions, or when we are exchanging views or exchanging communication within our organization and with other organizations for some business purpose, we normally use informal language. So let's look at the characteristics of informal language. It is characterized by short words and sentences like, thank you very much for your letter. So if you begin your letter with such a beginning, you see that it's very simple, very understandable. Every reader understands it, right? So begin your letters with simple start, simple words, and use contractions and abbreviation. Contraction, I haven't, you haven't, they haven't, it was, etc. So they can be very helpful. And abbreviation. Abbreviation, I mean, sometimes we have to use a word again and again. So instead of writing the whole word, it's better to use it in abbreviation. So this is how we can achieve this correctness principle. How we can convey correct information to our readers. So we discussed one quality, that was clarity, and the second quality, which is correctness. So let's look at the third quality. I told you that they have certain things which are common to all. Even today we are discussing about simple words that we discussed in the previous lecture under the heading of clarity, and we are again using the same simple word, etc., same terms today. So let's look at the third principle of communication, that is conciseness. A concise message saves time and expenses for both sender and receiver. Conciseness means that you have to convey your message in the fewest possible words without sacrificing the other C qualities. Conciseness is a very desirable quality, but conciseness should not be confused with brevity. To achieve conciseness, notice the following suggestions. So conciseness is to say something in the fewest possible word. And one thing, and the other is without sacrificing other C quality, and the third thing, it must not be confused with brevity. For example, you write a letter which is brief. You are to book a room in some hotel, and you write, please book a room for me, I'll be reaching at a certain date. So this is a very brief letter, and your purpose is to have one room. But this is brief but not complete. We said that we want conciseness without sacrificing other C qualities. This letter is brief but not concise, not complete. Because when the reader gets your letter, he doesn't know that which type of room you want, facing which side. It's a single bedroom or double bedroom. So be very careful about these things. Do not think that the reader will be taking things for granted and will be making adjustment for these gaps and will understand the whole thing by himself or herself. You don't have to make him do all these things. So in one way it's putting burden on his shoulders. So to achieve conciseness, you must follow these suggestions as I read for you, and let's see what they are. Let's look at this letter. Mr. Hassan, in reply to yours of recent date, I wish to advise you that Mr. Naim, about whom you inquired, was terminated from his employment at Brights on July 30, due to the fact that he frequently did not appear for work at the appointed hour. So if you look at this letter is giving an information which can be given in the fewest possible word without sacrificing other C qualities. It has used a lot of words. They say that 3 out of every 10 words are unnecessary. I mean, in communication, if we write 10 words, we are using 3 words which are unnecessary. We could have conveyed the same message in 7 words. So let's see the same letters rephrased with conciseness and by using other principles of communication. We read it. Mr. Hassan, Mr. Naim's employment at Brights ended on July 30th because of excessive slackness. So you see that the same information has been given in very few words. This is concise, and this gives the reader the information that he or she wanted. So do make your communication concise by bringing it into the fewest possible word and by not confusing conciseness with brevity. So to achieve conciseness, we need to eliminate wordy expressions. What do wordy expressions do? Let's look at it. To avoid word expressions, use single words whenever possible. Here are some examples of how word economy saves the reader's time and effort. I read it for you. Wordy expression. I want to take this opportunity to tell you that we are grateful to you. So if you look at this sentence got more than, but the same information can be given in 2 words. Thank you, or add one, thank you very much. Concisely you convey the same information. Let's look at the other example. We are grateful and appreciative. Appreciative and grateful both convey the same meaning. So as we did in the last lecture, that don't use words that give the same meaning. Don't repeat the words in another form. So similarly, try it which and that clauses whenever possible. For example, if you find such a sentence, please send us chairs which are of executive type. I mean, if you look at this, which are of executive type, this which clause can be removed. And you could have simply said, we need executive type chairs. So by revising your sentences, you can really bring this conciseness into your communication. So let's look at the other suggestion or guideline. They say, include only relevant material. Your reader will lose interest in your message if she finds irrelevant things in your message. Using only well-chosen words can help you convey relevant facts, avoid information obvious to the reader, avoid long introduction, excessive adjectives, pompous words. So, as you see that when you already know that you are well introduced to your readers, so you need not repeat things. Sometimes we take time, we'll see a lot of letters in which we just write introductory paragraphs in which we simply introduce ourselves, and this introduction is not necessary. It's quite obvious to the reader. And beside it, we all know that sometime we are writing to those people who already know a lot about those issues. So in that case, it will be unnecessary if we repeat the same information. So to achieve conciseness, you have to take care of these things. You shouldn't use adjectives, excessive adjectives. There are some people who are very fond of using adjectives. I mean, with one noun they bring more than one adjective. So be very careful not to use. You must use these things, but when they are necessary, and not sacrificing this conciseness. And another thing is, beware of pompous word. I mean, don't think that you use very good words. You know a lot of words. Your vocabulary is very good. Don't think that you should be using these pompous words, because they can confuse people. They are unnecessary. They sacrifice the quality of conciseness, and they just involve the reader to some other issues. So be very careful regarding these things. So let's see what is next. Again, we are given instructions not to use words again and again. This is, avoid unnecessary repetition, avoid repetition by using pronouns, short names or acronyms, etc. Stick to the purpose of the message. Writing concisely means using only necessary, meaningful words. So here is a guideline for you, that use pronouns. I mean, as I told you, and you all already know it, that instead of using noun again and again, it's better to use pronoun. But in the use of pronoun, be very careful. Be sure that your reference to the noun is clear. Your reference to the noun is clear. There is an agreement in person. There is an agreement in person. So the case of the pronoun is also to be checked. So when you are using pronoun, be very careful. But using pronoun brings smoothness, flow into your writing. Similarly, use acronyms. For example, if you are writing a letter to your water and power authority, instead of writing every time water and power development, etc., it's better to use acronym. Now these things are very common. If you want to achieve this conciseness principle, you will have to take care of all these things that we just discussed. Use simple word. Convey your message in the fewest possible words. Avoid repetition. Avoid using adjectives, avoid using pompous word, avoid using nouns again and again. So if you will take care of all these things, you will write messages which are very concise, which are very readable, easily readable. You give easy reading to your readers. By using these principles, you actually are helping your readers to read, to understand what you want to say. And by doing this, you are also conveying your messages to the reader. So we have gone through 3 principles: clarity, correctness, and conciseness. Now we move on to the 4th principle. Be very careful not to confuse this with anything else, with other principles. Our next and 4th principle is courtesy. Courtesy is actually a behavior, the way you behave through your correspondence. It's actually giving an image of your personality. It doesn't mean that you write thank you word, I'm pleased, etc. in your communication, and you think that you have achieved this principle. Sometimes we find certain letters in which there are a lot of such words, but the tone of the communication is very threatening. I mean, the reader feels that instead of these thank you and so on and please, etc., etc., the tone is very threatening. He feels annoyed. So you must write what you want to write, but learn to write it courteously. So let's see what courtesy is. Courtesy does not mean the use of old-fashioned expressions such as your kind inquiry, thank you, and please. Rather, it is politeness that grows out of respect and concern for others. Courtesy is a quality that enables a request to be refused without killing all hope of future business. Courtesy also means replying promptly to all letters. If you feel your correspondent's comments are unfair, try to answer factfully. In short, the whole letter should have a courteous tone. It is not what you say, it is how you say it. So there are a few very interesting things. That the tone of the letter needs to be courteous, and it's not what you say, it is how you say. I mean, the how you say is more important than what you say. You may say anything. Sometimes you do have to write certain messages in which the reader is not likely to agree. But it will certainly matter the way you communicate them or how you say. You bring your reader to a certain frame of mind when he is ready to accept, even if the information that you are sending is not in favor of him. But the way you convey your information will certainly impress upon your reader that you are doing it in his favor. So how you say is more important than what you say, because in doing this you do what you say. So we again have the guideline for it, and that is be sincerely tactful, thoughtful, and appreciative. Use expressions that show respect. Choose non-discriminatory expressions. Lot of time you have to convey certain things, write certain messages in which the reader is of another frame of mind. So be very careful. You have to convey this information very tactfully. So we have it. Sometimes you have to deal with unpleasant messages. Always remember that by using tact and being thoughtful, you can convey anything, however unpleasant it may be, to your readers. Similarly, use expressions that show respect. We sometimes use expressions that lack respect for our reader. For example, if you write, "I do not agree with you," you are writing an expression which is annoying. It also shows that you don't have respect for others. So you can rephrase this sentence, which shows respect, and you achieve the purpose at the same time. So be very careful when you are writing your messages that you do not annoy people. So one thing we need to know more about courtesy. We must choose non-discriminatory expressions. Non-discriminatory expressions mean that such expression which refers to any particular sex or any particular group of people. So we must be careful in using these expressions. So courtesy also requires use of non-discriminatory expressions that refers to any particular gender, race, ethnic origin, etc. So instead of writing or using businessman, you must use business person or business worker. Instead of saying chairman, you must say chair or chairperson, worker, employee. So instead of using these gender specific words like businessman, say business person or business worker. Instead of saying chairman, say chair or chairperson. Instead of saying manpower, say worker or employee. Instead of saying newsman, say newscaster or reporter or journalist. Similarly, instead of saying salesman, say salesperson or representative or agent. You know that today in the workforce we have both men and women, and if we say salesman, it may be a woman. So we need to be careful. Instead of using all these discriminatory expressions, we must avoid them and use such expression which are positive, which convey both to male and female worker at the workplace. So today we have discussed three qualities, three principles of good communication: correctness, conciseness and courtesy. And taking the fourth principle that we discussed in the last lecture, we have so far discussed four principles. So you have seen that a few of the things are overlapping in these four principles. But as I told you in the beginning, that they are so because of the common concern for the readers, for the audience. So that's why we want to repeat things again and again. I told you this too, that we want to develop a behavior, and for this we need to repeat things time and again so that they go into your mind, they go into your habits. So you develop a new set of habits whenever you are communicating, whether in writing or orally. You take care of these things. So we hope that today you must have learned these three principles, and the principle must be revised, the fourth one that we discussed in the previous lecture. And whenever you are writing now, you are thinking something about these principles. And as I told you today, that learning good communication is to look at the good examples as well as the bad examples, and then do it yourself. Write drafts of letters, of memos, of reports, and see that how good you are, and compare these things with good correspondence, so that you become a very good communicator. So it's over for today. We'll meet in the next lecture. Thank you very much.